From MZ Studios in Dallas, Texas, you're listening to the Tennis Revolution podcast.
We are back.
Seems like forever.
The Tennis Revolution is back. Got one other question for you. Know who else is back?
Tiger Woods, y'all.
He is back.
So, I don't know how copywriting works. We never use anything on this, really. Some clips.
With anyone's permission.
That's true. But, you know, that was 2.5 seconds or 3 seconds of Chris Rock and, what was it?
Down to Earth.
Down to Earth.
One of his classics.
Of course. With Chris Rock, who came back.
I think when that movie came out was the last time Tiger Woods won. Might
have been. But he's got a great scene where he says, Tiger Woods, y'all. It's fantastic. And Tiger Woods is back. I texted you. We were going to think about recording a day early because all the clay courts are tournaments were inconsequential.
Right.
But I'm glad we didn't because we get to talk about Tiger Woods, y'all.
That's right. That used to be my favorite PlayStation game was Tiger Woods. And
Tiger Woods, y'all?
Back when he was winning.
Country version of Tiger Woods, y'all?
And it was kind of weird. It was like a flashback to see that.
It was at some point, I can't remember what year, it was definitely after his wife beat him with a golf club. Now ex-wife, Tiger Woods' ex-wife, beat him with a golf club. But there was some discussion on who would win a major first again, Federer or Tiger Woods.
That's right, because Federer had a drought for a while.
He had a drought. Boy, did that question get in. I picked Federer. I really did, actually. But even if I didn't, I would tell you I did. But I actually did. And I didn't know if Tiger would ever win one again. And boy, was I wrong. Barely.
Yeah, and like you said, you're always playing the course, which is a little different, than playing specific opponents. But
yeah,
obviously the achievement is still the achievement.
Speaking of playing the course versus courts, oh, baby. Something that falls right in line with what we talked about maybe, I don't know, last week or week before, where, I've mentioned it before on the pod, that we could run the entire season at one facility in Miami or in California.
Right.
The entire ATP season could be run at one facility.
Yeah, because you've got different weather, different surfaces. You've already got everything you need.
And guess what? It might be happening.
Oh, yeah?
That's a tease. I'm playing the long game here on that one. We'll talk about that after the break because I'm fired up. I think I have a new favorite player.
Uh-oh.
And it's not Tiger Woods, y'all. A favorite new tennis player. And, of course, it's a man, of course, because I'm sexist. I'm not. And neither is he. There's your first hint.
Oh, there you go.
Not telling you. Yeah, so it was exciting because people, at least in the U.S., I don't know how the rest of the world is, but people in the U.S. really connect the two sports of tennis and golf. Now, maybe not people in each industry, in each sport, but people outside the sport certainly connect them. They're the country club sports, right?
Right.
Rich white people sports, if you will. And I will say that golf is super expensive to play. I don't care how many programs you help to get people. I mean, I need a program to help me play. It's expensive.
It is.
Do you play ever?
I've played once this year, and I was kind of even then surprised at how expensive it was.
Did you play at a muni, a public?
I played it. It wasn't a city course, but it was public, and it was just a 9-hole course.
Yeah, nobody's going to let you into a private. Crazy.
And I will say on TV, I didn't see many non-white spectators, so they haven't really got out of that. Despite Tiger Woods' success, they haven't gotten out of that. demographic.
So what you're saying is people of color are racist against golf. Is that what you're telling me?
Not at all.
Oh.
I just think it has a strong white following, as it always has.
It's just so doggone expensive. It's so expensive. But I'll tell you, it is. I mean, to upkeep an 18-hole course has to be. I mean, I know how much effort it takes just to cut my little pitiful yard. So 18, every golf hole is 500 times bigger than my yard.
Right.
And then do it 18 times. What's 18 times 500 quick?
Yeah.
So, I guess there's a reason it's expensive, but
19,000.
Is it really?
Yeah, something like that.
Did you do that on your phone?
No.
What?
19,000.
Man, you've got a bigger calling than this podcast. I suggest you go find it right now.
But, yeah, I mean, it's got to be expensive. And the thing is, I think what you're saying is to be good at golf, it's expensive. Like, everybody can afford to go play golf. You want to play on the worst course and borrow some equipment. But, I mean, to be good at it, you're going to have to spend a ton.
Yeah. I mean, tennis, you have the numbers issue. So if you go get on a soccer field, one ball, one field, 22 children.
Right.
Basketball, one ball, 10 children, boom, you're playing basketball. Tennis, it's 4 at the most.
Right.
And you need one ball and 4 rackets. But,
right.
But once you have a racket, you can use it forever.
Yeah.
So that's something.
Yeah.
But
and you have free courts to use.
But one thing that I think, there is no free golf course. Although kids play free at a lot of golf courses, from what I understand.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. So I've been wearing like those little hats with propellers on them and little short shorts, trying to walk on my knees to go out there, and it just never works.
But you did that before you even played golf.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, just a side benefit of my lifestyle. All
right, got a good visual there. I'm glad we don't have anything on Instagram.
So why does that matter besides Tiger Woods y'all winning the Masters? The first major he's won in 10 years, and the first Masters in 14. So this is not a golf podcast. To be fair, we talk about a lot of sports
right.
a lot, but why would I possibly be talking about golf and Tiger Woods as it relates to this podcast? Can anybody guess?
Well, I think it's a lot to do with what you said about how tennis and golf are always so linked. And, I mean, there's various avenues we could talk about how older people are doing better in sports.
Wrong. Everything you just said is wrong. So the reason is, I'll save you the embarrassment.
Thank you.
So the reason is that our sport and golf, first of all, are individual sports. And secondly, they are not the most popular. Plus, you have a heavy usage and a heavy watchage, and they can often be different. So, in other words, no one plays football and watches football anymore. Right. But tennis and golf are both lifetime sports, and so you can have that group that watches and doesn't play, but you also have that group that still plays, and they watch to varying degrees. So there's some similarities, and again, they are linked in the sense that they're thought of as wealthier type.
Don't you think
sports.
that's funny that the sports that are the least played are the most watched? You'd think that would make no sense.
No, because they don't want to waste their time on the couch watching it when they could go play it.
Yeah.
But they can't play football. They're living vicariously through, whoever. Anyway, so you take those two sports, and there are a lot of similarities. And one thing that you notice, because I haven't watched golf really with any regularity in, I don't know since when. Probably
since Tiger was winning.
Right, since his infidelity issues with Perkins waitresses.
So 8 or 10 years at least, probably.
So, but now I was attempting to watch the Masters very much. And, by the way, their app is dope.
Oh, yeah?
The Masters app is unbelievable. And so, yes, every Grand Slam tournament, the majors, please call whoever made the Masters app and and get them to make yours because it's fantastic. Anyway,
that's funny because I thought the coverage was mediocre, but having the app.
Come on now, subpar. Come on now.
Well, but subpar for golf means good.
No, it's true.
But explain
subpar
that phrase.
Below par,
right?
It means worse than par,
right?
So in your face.
But yeah, it's funny. They kept promoting the app, and I'm like, why do I need the app? I'm watching it right now. But you're telling me why.
But anywho, but one thing that dawned on me is that, man, Tiger Woods, and quite frankly, every other golfer on the planet, professional golfer, knows this and parrots this same sentiment, and they better. Golf is just better with Tiger. Matter of fact, I would say golf is only watchable. That's a little strong. That's a little strong. But what a difference Tiger Woods, y'all, makes.
Oh, we're going to see the difference, when the ratings come out tomorrow. Even with it being, 4 hours earlier than it was supposed to be, those ratings are going to be huge.
And ticket sales for the next tournament Tiger's in now, because not only is he limping along and playing, oh, wait, now he's a major winner again. Wow.
And I thought, what I will say positive about the covers, they didn't, monopolize it just on Tiger at all times. They did a good job of kind of spreading around with the people that were in contention.
Well, so the idea to me, what I'm getting at is I think golf is desperately dependent on a player and only one player to get golf to that level. And now I am impressed. Don't start with me. Don't at me or whatever people say. I get it. All these players are fantastic, man. I really am a fan of Rory McIlroy. And really
not after he broke poor Caroline's heart.
I know, huh? No, but that's where I got to really kind of, I know that guy, yeah. Because he had a connection to tennis.
Right.
So now I sort of had a connection to him, sort of,
Right.
And so I started following him at that point. But and then he dumps her and has a fantastic run, like his career run.
Yeah, and they both did. Hers just took a little longer.
It fizzled, yeah. So anyway, I'm looking at that from the standpoint of men's tennis, and I think to myself, wow, at least we're not that dire.
Right.
First of all, we have 3 players that are major stars on the men's side, and we have one who's a little younger than the other 2 and less beat up, believe it or not, even though he's had, an issue, but he's back. And I think that between those 3 and then maybe Djokovic, so in other words, the big 3, Federer, Nadal, and Djokovic being a little younger and is able to be able to last a little bit longer, I think once they're gone, he'll get his due because now he's the guy that's going to have to carry men's tennis.
So you think if...
And his dumb Lego. He needs to get a Lego sponsorship immediately.
Let's say that Tiger quadruple bogeyed the 13th and, was 5 strokes back. What percentage drop do you think the ratings would have had at that point?
A lot.
Like 50%?
I don't know. I'm not that smart, but The
only reason I ask is there any male player that when they lose in a tournament, it's a comparable drop?
No.
Yeah, I don't think so
I
either.
don't think so.
Because if Federer drops and he still had Nadal, Djokovic, I think you would still have the ratings and the attendance the next day.
Well, and again, that overhyping of the next gen and even the next gen, at least they've forced upon us the idea that somebody's good at tennis besides those. They're wrong. They're lying. But at least we have some sense that, okay, we can replace the all-timers here.
Well, and one difference in tennis is that people always want to see the person who beat, like if some virtual unknown beat Federer, a lot of people are going to tune in the next round to see, who's this guy that beat Federer?
The benefit of, head-to-head stuff versus golf where it's you're playing the course, and if the course kicks your butt that day and you're out, then everybody's bailing.
Yeah, no one's going to say, this guy made a better score than Tiger on this hole. He must be better. Let's watch him.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think there is a little residual benefit when one of the big 3 loses. By the way, speaking of the big 3, I got yelled at on either Twitter or the email or something, and they didn't say any bad words. I don't think they said any bad words, but I think they said effing, or they might have used like
Don't tell me they're saying we should be saying Big Four.
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I was about to say, because that term has been long gone.
Let me see.
As
here.
it should be.
Yeah. So, Corey is the worst of all. No. That
was your text, not the Twitter.
Yeah, that was my personal. I can't find it. Golly, I'm the worst. I am the worst. Maybe it was on Twitter. I don't know how to find these things. When the little red number pops up,
you know you're asking the wrong person.
I know, but on anything. So you get text messages, right? Because I know you ignore mine. So when I get a text message, some kind of little indicator comes up. Hey, you got something. And so I just push buttons until that something comes up. And then after that, I don't know.
And let me tell you what I want. Invent this, and you should be a billionaire. I want you to be able to keep that red dot there. Like, okay, that was important. I need to come back and look at that later. Whatever it was, whether it was tweet, Facebook message, text. Because it's like you said, as soon as you read it, it's gone and you don't know how to find it again.
Right.
There should be a way to mark this as like save this message. You could even have a separate app just for saved important, messages or whatever.
Oh, here you go. All right. So if you're on Twitter, you're public, right? Should I give out the things the person's...
Well, yeah, they posted it publicly, right? It wasn't a message to you.
I don't think you can privately message anything.
I don't think so on Twitter.
But then he followed us too, by the way. So, FedFanForever. So
no bias there.
If you agree with this person, by all means, follow them and tell them that he's right and that we suck. Because we might. He did use a bad word. I don't like how you guys rag on Federer every FN episode. Effing. Thank you for not insulting my precious ears. Weak era my ass.
Wow.
That's strong. You are just butthurt. Oh, my mom.
I hate that phrase, but
I'm not
whatever.
a fan of it, but it's quite used. You guys are just butthurt that Federer is like 1,003 against Americans. He's not. There's no chance. He's 1,000.
That's a great line, though.
I'm really laughing. I didn't laugh the first time I saw it because I just read it like I'm outside
in the car or something,
or at practice or whatever. And I see it, and now I'm reading it. That's funny.
And all of those three are all retired, probably.
1,003, and the only three were against Roddick. Damn it!
In like meaningless tournaments. That's a great line.
I bet you he is not 1,003 against Americans. I don't think you can search
in slams. I bet that's pretty accurate. I mean, not 1,000. He's in 1,000 matches in his life, but
he hasn't played 1,000 matches in his life since he was like 2, maybe.
I think he just got like 700 wins or 800 wins or something.
Oh, man.
But no, that would be a valid argument if we also hated Nadal and Djokovic and every other pro player, because every other pro player has a record like that against Americans nowadays. I'm sure Nadal's record against Americans is as good as Federer's, if not better.
All right. So here's what I hate. I hate Djokovic's Lego hair. I hate his dumb heart thing. But I like all three players. I even like Andy. How about that?
Oh.
How about that? I mean,
except for his equality views.
Yeah, well, no.
Fake equality views.
It's called virtue signaling. But I'm 100% all for equality. But he tries to insert it every single time.
Right.
Like right now.
I believe you meant the greatest male player ever.
Right. Meanwhile, you're at the nearest women's tournament is 8,000 miles away on the other side of the world. But yeah, you're right, Andrew. You got me off topic. So we don't hate Federer.
I don't know. I don't hate Federer. Well, we hate the rest of the field for not being able to beat him after 20 years.
Right. It's pitiful.
And I hate that. What I hate is that Federer is still able to win. It's not because I don't like Federer. I don't like Golden State winning 4 years in a row. I don't like anybody winning. I mean, we've seen that enough.
All right, so the Patriots, disregard the, spa scandal. I'm not talking about the spa scandal. That's a whole separate issue. Don't get into that. I don't care. That's a separate non-tennis podcast related issue. But the Patriots, I mean, they're like 1,003 against the Steelers in AFC Championship games.
Right.
I'm sure of it.
And you hate them, point proven.
And I hate them because that's my team. But when I step back a second, I'm like, wow, they are absolutely dominant. And all those teams have the same amount of cap money, the same rules, the same everything
right.
to go and try and beat these teams. And the draft is set up in such a way that the crappier teams get good players and is supposed to equal it out and all the rest of it.
Yeah, the good teams actually get punished.
So, you know, and they still dominate. They still dominate. And it sickens me. But that's not how I feel about Federer and Nadal. And to me, it'd be if I was mad at the rest of the NFL because they got half the salary cap that New England did. Basically, the entire ATP Tour is playing with half the salary cap of the big three.
Well, and
so I love Federer dearly, but he's not as great as Pete Sampras.
Well, prime example, let's say that Tiger Woods' win today was his 14th year in a row to win.
Right.
Would that be as big of a story as what it was today? Obviously not.
No.
And so Federer, to me, winning 5 titles every year is not a big story. That's just more of a story of how big of a gap there is between him and everybody else. But it can't be because he's that amazing, because we've talked about the reasons why.
Well, the golf analogy, the only way it falls short is because we actually have a real comparison, a hard line
right.
that we can judge whether somebody's above or below it. And that's the fact that the courses haven't changed. I mean, give or take, but
right.
Golf is still the same, and you're not playing against people.
Yeah.
You're playing against a course, and your scores are judged relative to other people. But from the tee box to the hole is still the same distance. The same trees are still in the way. Same sand traps. I don't know, whatever else golf things. I'm trying to think of all the places I end up. Behind trees, in the sand, in the water, not in the hole.
The bar after.
I finished a fair amount of golf holes without putting the ball in the hole. I just pick up, say some bad words, and move on before the people behind me try to. But yeah, so you're talking about a little bit different comparison. To get mad at Tiger, it's kind of hard because you can say, wow, he's dominating, and he's dominating with scores that are all-time great scores, which you can compare through time.
Right.
You can't send Federer back to 87.
Yeah.
You can't send him back to, you know, hot tub time machine style and have him play. And so we do have this argument. It's a valid argument to consider. I don't know if we're right.
Right.
No, I know we are. But, argumentative, I don't know if we're right, but it's a reasonable discussion to look at hey, he's dominating, or these three are dominating.
Right.
Is it because they're the greatest ever? Or is there a chance that this period of time there's a lull? Why can't there be?
Right. And what I always want to ask is, well, the question I always do ask, but the person's never here to answer is Federer better now than he was 5 to 7 years ago? And if he is...
How about 10 to 12 years ago?
And if he is, he'd be the first player in history to be better. And there's no way to prove that. But if he isn't, then the only other answer is that the people he's playing are worse. Because there's no other explanation.
Put it this way. Even if he's exactly the same, no one is getting better. No one? The number 3 player in the world, by the way, just lost in the first round last week. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. But anyway, the only discussion to have in regard to the big 3 is if they win, why is it? It's not about strategy anymore with those 3. It's not about, we know exactly what they do.
Right.
Everyone knows, every coach of every player knows what they do.
Right.
Now, there might be some slight variations in terms of how he plays. Well, of course, because he's getting older. Nobody else would know that, but he's making adjustments because of that. So, no, he's not getting better. But none of these other children are getting better. It's unbelievable.
Right.
And the worst part is, here's the worst part. Here's my worst fear, is that they're just going to retire and be too old to play anymore, and that's why somebody beats them.
Right.
If he is 45 years old winning Grand Slams, can somebody please agree with me? 45 years, please win a Grand Slam when you're 45. Please.
And I also think it's funny that these hardcore Federer fans that are saying he's the greatest ever when he's literally going to be passed in about 2 years by Djokovic and or Nadal in slams. So, I mean, let's just hold the reins back a little bit on Federer being the greatest ever.
By the way, so I've been saying, I mean to cut you off, but this is important, and I'll forget because I'm not bright. I've been saying that if you make an argument for Federer being the greatest, then you're also making my argument for Djokovic being the greatest.
Right.
Because he's about to do everything, but you know what their counter is?
He didn't have variety or something.
He didn't have Federer and Nadal, and then when they retire, they won't have him. So what they're saying is the only people that are any good in this era are those three.
Right.
They rest my case.
If Djokovic wins 5 after Federer and Nadal are gone, is that he passed him because he needed to beat Federer and Nadal. Yeah, you know you're going to hear that.
They didn't beat Sampras and Agassi for theirs. So now what are you telling me?
Well, I just think it's great that they've pinned all their hopes on the Grand Slams because Djokovic will have passed him in every other category and probably slams too.
And eventually slams might be last, and that's fine.
Right, but he'll have the weeks at number 1. He'll have the Masters titles. He'll have the year-ends number 1. He'll have everything.
Total wins. More. He'll by far surpass Federer on clay in every category.
Yeah, and I like Federer more than Djokovic. I'm just saying that you have to put in perspective what somebody's doing. If
you picked all 3 players, if you took the big 3 and said, which one do you like best? For me, it's Federer. Man, Federer's first because I like, number 1, I'm a oney. I like a one-hander. I'm just partial. But he's definitely an all-court player. Now, Nadal's come around, and Djokovic has the ability, but he doesn't have that ability. He can finish off volleys because he puts people in a position where they can't, hit good passing shots. But Federer is really, he's got the best volley physically, but also the best net game overall. So he's a better all-court player, which I like. Partly as a player, but also as a coach, too. It's fun because he's got more options. And I'll tell you, I think Djokovic has passed Nadal to me for second. I mean, the raw, ferocious, ability of Nadal is an impressive sight to watch. But, man, Djokovic is he's like a bulldozer that you can't even hear coming. He's just nonstop, man.
Right.
You cannot do anything against that guy. He covers the court like nobody's business. And Nadal's supposed to be that guy. But Nadal's got to be 27 feet behind the baseline to do that.
Right.
Nadal, can turn offense to defense and all that kind of stuff, but he's got to do it with, these miraculous angles with his ridiculous Western grip. And Djokovic does it with just his sheer, I don't know what to call it, but I mean, he's just always in position.
Straight relentless, basically.
Always in position, always. So anyway, yes, Federer is one out of the big 3. Federer's one, and then I'm going to have to go Djokovic, and then Nadal.
And obviously, when their careers are over, who knows when that'll be, we will have a true debate on this at some point. But I say the same thing about the Patriots you brought up. They get a free pass to the playoffs every year because of what division they're in. And you can't tell me that doesn't make a difference in your chance to success, when you have that happening. So it does make a difference on who you play. Yeah.
Now, to be fair, they win every other game they play also. However, but no. It definitely makes it easy when you're 6-0 out of the gate.
Yeah. So you can't say that those things don't matter.
And they matter to these 3 guys. Now, is there something to be said for the fact that the big 3 are dramatically better than everybody else? That matters.
Right.
That is, I mean, they could also be bad in this era of tennis, but they're not.
Right.
And so that matters. That means something. So, honestly, I'm indifferent when people think I'm trashing their guy, except for the fact that I will say, as much as we come at this era, I think me in particular probably forget to also say, oh, yeah, by the way, they certainly are all 3 in the argument for greatest of all time.
Well, and you've said many times, if you drop Federer into 1992, he might have 20 slams.
He might.
But he wouldn't.
He might not.
He wouldn't be gathering them as easily as he's now. You know, he would have had to work a lot harder for the 20.
I think so. Every round.
Right.
Again, I mean, there's a million things we talk about. How many Hall of Famers will be from this era? How many Hall of Famers will be from this era that meet the same statistical qualifications that they did in the 90s, even early 2000s?
Yeah.
Not a lot.
Right.
So anyway, all right, who cares? And by the way, we don't like American tennis either. So I don't care if he's 1,000.
No, that honestly doesn't matter to me at all.
I mean, I want the greatest of all time right now to be an American coming up. But, I mean, that kid's 12 right now, unfortunately.
I mean, I'm sad for Roddick because of how many times he lost to Federer in big moments. But that's – so, yeah, the fact that Federer beat a player I liked did add a little dislike to me to him. But I don't blame him for being good. That's like saying, you know, I hate Michael Jordan because he always beat, you know, I was a Karl Malone fan or whatever. I mean,
were you really?
It's just no, but I'm just saying.
Goodness.
But I'm like, but he's.
We're about to cancel.
But I'm saying he's better. Like just because the other guy's better than me, I don't hate him for that reason. It's just. Well,
to clarify, I like all three players. I don't like any of them. I don't know them. But relative to the comments and what people mean by that, I like all three.
Right.
I like all three. They're all winners. They're all champions. They're all all-time greats. I just don't know if they're the all-time great or if they ever will be.
And Federer, the best of all time, losing record against both of them. So that's my other argument that I always use.
Ding, 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 ding.
So that, you know.
You mean, what are you talking about? He's got a losing record against both Nadal and Djokovic, right? Djokovic has a winning record against both of them.
He does, yeah.
Well, the good news is I can tell you about my new favorite player, somebody I can say I do like. I don't know him still, but I do like him, and we will talk about him when we come back.
It's time to join the revolution. Go to our website, tennisrevolutionpodcast.com. To get the latest episodes, email us your questions and comments, or give us show ideas.
All right, you've been waiting with bated breath.
Someone has replaced Benoit Paire on the list of favorite players.
Wait for it. Benoit Paire got him a W in Marrakesh.
See?
So he's my wild card. Again, it'll have to be when they're all 45, but he will upset one of the big three eventually. Benoit Paire.
He'll upset them, just not by winning. He'll upset them with how bad he is.
His dumb beard or his platinum hair. So he wins Marrakesh, which, I mean, look, it's a tournament. It exists.
Right.
250s are fine. You know, I don't think they're going to change the world. It's like the match play tournament before the Masters we were talking about.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but
it's there.
It's a golf tournament. So Marrakesh is the tournament. By the way, Morocco. Not a lot of water around there. Marrakesh is in the desert.
Yes.
I was looking at it on Google Maps. Crazy.
Perfect for clay courts.
Why not? So we also had the American. By the way, somebody corrected me. It's not green clay. What I meant was it's American clay.
No, I think it has been green clay every year, but this year.
Or last year and this year. Yeah, it's definitely been green clay, of course.
This was the first year I noticed it being red, but maybe it was last year.
Might have been last year too, yeah, but it's definitely been green before.
And I think it's funny how now no Americans can win it now that it's not green.
My guess is, though...
Damn that Federer and beating these Americans.
I don't know if it's the exact same clay. Maybe it is. I don't know.
It's probably the same. It's just red. Probably the same as it was before.
I bet it's far true, but it's red.
But do you think that adds a little bit of credibility? Because I think that's the only reason they did it.
Oh, to paint it red?
Yeah, like, it's a real clay court.
It might be some closer version. Maybe it's exactly that. It could be exactly that. I don't know.
Because I can't think of any other reason to change it unless the players requested it.
I mean, the surface says red clay, but it doesn't say Hartrue.
Yeah.
Because Hartrue is a green stuff, but as we've seen, you can change the color of clay if you'd like. So yeah, I'm not 100. It just says red clay, which I don't like because it definitely doesn't look the same.
Right.
So much darker red, and it doesn't look as fine.
No, it doesn't.
Which the red clay is more fine. That green clay or the Hartrue the granules are thicker, and I think it's still the same. I think it's still Hartrue.
Yeah.
And so when I said that, I meant the same clay. Green, red doesn't matter, obviously, to me. If it's that clay, that American clay, if
right.
you will. That's really what I was getting at. But anyway, where was I? So I've got a new favorite player.
And was he in the U.S. tournament or Marrakesh?
Who cares? Who cares? So, by the way, our American tournament here. Typically, Americans dominate, mainly because nobody else comes down to play.
Right.
But this time, they did not.
Now that it's red, they got other people to come play.
They ran from it. Nobody told them it was actually.
They might go back to green next year.
Yeah. No. We. Do you have the semi-final lineup in front of you again? Because it was.
Oh, well, yeah. Rude for you to bring it up. Guerin, who was who were the two finalists? Already forgotten.
Rude and Guerin.
Oh, there you go. So I can't tell you who they beat then. No, I had it up. Oh, here it is.
I'm the worst.
Galen, who I'd never heard of, and obviously Sam Querrey, who we know. But Daniel Galen, have never heard of him, and he lost to Rude in the semis. And Rude, I've actually seen him play before. I think he's an up-and-comer, so he could actually be good. And maybe Guerin, too. Who knows?
Yeah, Rude is 20. He's from Norway. So on weekends, he likes whale hunting.
And Guerin's 22, so he's...
And Rude is 95 in the world at this moment, not counting this tournament.
And Guerin will be top 50 now, and he won the French Open Juniors.
There we go.
6 years ago. So obviously he's got clay court experience.
Well, he's from Chile, so
yeah,
they like that clay down there. So there you go. So American. Hey, I'll tell you this. I would love more clay courters to come to Houston. Americans winning a clay court tournament is sacrilege to clay court tennis. It shouldn't happen. And so the more clay courters that come to Houston, I think the bigger that tournament will get because it's not very big now.
Yeah, Galan currently 241 in the world.
So a stellar turnout there. What I'm saying. Yeah.
Luckily, they had the Bryans, at least to the semis. And
they didn't win it?
No.
Oh, Lord.
And after that, they had, I'm sure, a pretty hard time selling those last seats.
And hopefully they already sold them.
Right.
All right, so who cares? All right, so I'm going to... did I already tell you who this was?
No.
I haven't told you at all.
You haven't given me a clue even.
Woo-wee. All right, let's see. I'm going to give you... Just to make you look like an idiot.
You said they were American.
No, I did not.
Oh, I thought you did.
No, I don't like American players. All right, currently, this player is 372 in the world.
Oh, God. Well, that takes my...
Wait a minute. He's from Belgrade, Serbia.
Well, I know the answer now, but I'm going to...
All right, give it.
Yanko Tipsarevic.
Hey, hiya. So why would Yanko Tipsarevic be my favorite player?
Because y'all both have glasses.
Yeah, but he's got way cooler. Yeah, no, his are cool. His are trademarked. So, no.
Former number 8 in the world, I believe.
Yes. He is 34 years old, not in the world, 34. And I recently heard, first of all, I almost got in trouble. I got yelled at, I should say, via text. Not text, email, kind of. But so you are familiar. I've mentioned before the podcast called The Tennis Podcast, because we're the tennis podcast,
right? Called
the Tennis Revolution, but this is the tennis podcast. To English people do it over there in England, I guess, and so. David Law is one of the hosts, the co-host, and he was doing an interview with Tipsarevic. And I would encourage you, don't delete this podcast to go listen, but after this podcast, go listen to the most recent, I think it's the most recent episode of the Tennis Podcast with that interview with Yanko. Because first of all, why do you think he's my favorite new player?
Well, because he was entertaining to listen to.
Assume that it's because he agrees with me in some form or fashion.
That's true. That's always a good assumption.
He has validated me in some form or fashion. So he hates women. No, I'm kidding. First, well, actually, this is not the only reason. This is a small part of it. But he was apparently in some circles, people call him sexist and that he doesn't want equality, and he quashed that, as you might imagine, and said basically revolving around equal prize money. And I guess he talks about that if they want equal prize money, they should play 3 out of 5. Because and he said, listen, the men do play, spend more time on court with 3 out of 5. That's just a fact. And so whatever. And people, of course, look at that argument and say, oh, that's just an argument that sexist people make because the women don't play 3 out of 5.
Right.
And I got news for you. Nobody wants to see that. But more importantly, what he talked about was he actually brought up Chelsea, the soccer team, and the English soccer team. But I looked at we talked about the WNBA and NBA for this thing, but he basically said, hey, if the Chelsea women soccer team, which I think all these English Premier Leagues have a women's team as part of their group or whatever. Yeah. And so the Chelsea women's team, or Man United for that matter. So Manchester United is I think the highest valued professional sports team in the world.
I think so.
Multiple, like $3 billion. Sorry, Jerry Jones. So multiple, I think up to $3 billion is its value. So I was thinking about seeing if you wanted to go in half on it.
Just a couple more shows and I'll be there.
Yeah. So and so he said basically if you had the women's version of Manchester, he used Chelsea, but I'll use Manchester United. If you had the women's team demanding equal pay to the men's team of Manchester United, people would laugh hysterically at you and think that's ridiculous because the amount of money generated by the women's team is pennies compared to the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars annually that Manchester United men generate. Now, the host of the thing said something along the lines of, well, because there's structural inequalities that exist, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, so what?
Right.
That's fix those. That's fine. Go fix those. But the bottom line is people aren't lining up, queuing up, as they say over there, to get into a Chelsea game or a Man United women's game like they are the Premier League men's team. Right. They're just not. Yeah. And so you can't, make money out of thin air. You can't snap your fingers and say, oh, well, we'll just pay you out of the gate. Oh, wait, you only made $28 at the gate? Okay. So that's sort of on that side of things. Now, he had a bunch of other stuff that he talked about, one of which I thought was hugely important, and that more important in terms of agreeing with me. I mean, I don't want to say that the most important thing is equal prize. So Tipsarevic was talking about the CEO or whatever, the president of the ATP, Chris Commode. He's out after his contract runs out, and so he brought that. So David Law, the co-host of the Tennis Podcast, brought that up, and they were talking about that, and Tipsarevic basically said, that the players just can't get together because if they could, they'd be in charge. Right. And he used an example. He said he could go find, no offense, this is his words, quoting his words, a fat Chinese billionaire. I don't know why he's got to be fat. But a fat Chinese billionaire and say, hey, we want to run a tournament during the Australian Open, and the payout is going to be 50% or whatever of the revenue, not 12. Because I guess the number across the board is 12% of.
And that's gone up because at one point I heard it was like 7 or 8 or something.
And even 12 is not enough. And just because it went up, that's good.
Other sports, it's like 50 or 60 typically.
Yeah. The NBA, is a prime example. All of them. I mean, it's way more. So he said, we could go to a fat Chinese billionaire. No offense to fat or Chinese or billionaires, and create a tournament and say, hey, you're going to make this much money every year, but you just need to pay out 50% of that revenue. You're still going to clear a couple $100 million or $100 million a year, and somebody would jump at that. And that's exactly what we were saying. Without the Chinese billionaire, we could run the entire ATP season on one court, in one venue.
Yeah.
And all it takes is, not all it takes, don't get me wrong, but if these people think, and he mentioned, he said a couple things that people are like, might just think, wow, that's crazy. But I don't think it is crazy. And what he said was, you don't think that the Australian Open could move to Beijing?
Right.
You don't think the U.S. Open could move to, I don't know where, but you don't think the French Open could move, to wherever?
And they're going to sell out wherever they are because look at the Laver Cup. I mean, it's been at Prague and Chicago.
And it's not real.
Out. Right. And that's just had a couple big game players, and that's it.
There's big money, but it's not real. Right. You can make these tournaments real, but make them big money. And some people would go. There would be a split. And if these people don't think even Wimbledon, and he said, what if you moved Wimbledon to Dubai?
Yeah.
And guess what? There's enough money in Dubai. I think Federer would go play Dubai instead of Wimbledon at some point.
Right.
I guess Tipsarevic lives there. I guess he's got a house there as well. So that's kind of probably why he said that. But there's plenty of billionaires in that area. And so if the ATP and or WTA doesn't get their life together, all of that stuff, they just think, they're sitting there just thinking, oh, this is the way it is and this is how it's going to be. If these players are smart or disciplined or could agree for 10 minutes, they could do whatever they wanted.
Right.
Because you could say, I'm going to bankrupt Wimbledon. And everybody would say, all right, we're not playing in it. The top 100 in the world could say, we're out.
Right. When you're telling me that if the U.S. Open brings in $250 million, which that's probably lower than what they bring in, but if they bring in $250 million, you're telling me Federer's not worth 10 of that, Well, I think even more than that, you're telling me the first round of qualifying is not worth $40,000. Right.
I mean, if you could pay $40,000 and then pay the first round $120,000, I think that was a number Tipsarevic threw out. If you can't pay the first round loser, and here's a fantastic way, I've never thought about it. He said it like this. I've kind of thought about it, but I haven't articulated exactly like he did. He said, you're not paying somebody $40,000 or 120, whatever the number could be. Right now, I think it's 30. You're not paying somebody $30,000 to lose in the first round.
Right.
You're paying them $30,000 for being 60 in the world,
right? Because they were good enough to get in
and being in the first round. The way the current system is,
that's basically their salary reward for being in the top 100.
Exactly, and and to get there, they had to spend a ton of money with travel and coaching and their agent and all the rest of it. So that he's got my vote for president of the Player Council because that's exactly the kind of talk that needs to be happening. I don't know what the big quote unquote big three is. What they're trying to do, and it sounds like maybe Djokovic is off a little bit to the side of what Federer. I think Federer and Nadal are establishment.
Well, I think the problem is that when you've got three players so dominant, why would they want anything to change? Because they're rolling in, in comparison to everyone else, they're rolling. So why would they want to change anything? Like Federer should want everything to stay exactly the same for the next 10 years. And
I don't know how it works, to be quite honest. I don't know if he's got additional sway or any of those three have additional sway. But I think they have a representative from each sort of grouping of ranking, like top 10, top 50.
Yeah. I know Djokovic is the current of the top. He is the current powerful one. I'm not sure.
Right. I don't know.
But what that power means, who knows?
Yeah. So, I mean, think about this. Think about Monte Carlo, which we'll talk about in a minute. I think Monte Carlo, if you look at the pictures, man, I've got to rob a couple banks because I want to visit. But if you think about Monte Carlo, what better venue to play tennis in? The players have to absolutely love it. I'm sure just physically being in that environment is wonderful. I'm sure they're spoiled rotten. The town is probably... The city or whatever is probably everything literally is 5. So you're not going to find a Hojo to stay in, or Super 8.
Right.
I'm pretty sure everything's 5-star. And a lot of them live there, or many live there already. You can't tell me that if somebody came along and said, "Hey, I want to jack up this prize money. Oh, I don't know, tenfold.
Right. I
want to give the winner $14 million. And I want to give the first round players $120,000 for losing in the first round."
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I want to move it a little later in the year. Oh, I don't know. How about a month and a half? Right on top of the French Open.
Yeah.
You don't think some people would play it instead? I bet you they would.
Yeah.
I bet you they would just because they're, a-holes like me. They just would do it to be different. But also, there'd be enough to really force these Grand Slams, force the ATP, the ITF, whoever, to, hey, y'all need to get it together and quit beating us down. And it sounds ridiculous. Oh, $60,000, $30,000 more than people make in a year in some countries, blah, blah, blah. And that's not enough? No, it's not. It's not.
Not when you're spending that much probably per month.
No. I don't care how much they're spending. The tournaments are making well more than enough to pay them more. Right. That's the point. The product is the men and women on the court. The product is hitting the tennis ball out there center court, not your dumb venue and beautiful city, although they're lovely. I'm looking at a picture of the beautiful blue Mediterranean. Man.
Yeah, because, there'd be an easy way to see. You just check the tourism numbers, for those cities that have a Grand Slam for those weeks, and it's got to be dramatically higher with the weeks those slams are there than any other time of the year.
Now, they are all major world cities that can absorb, that many people, but it's still got to be a nice little tick over 2 weeks. On New York City, you think about New York City and London and Paris. For Pete's sakes. Melbourne, I don't know. They probably have nothing going on.
But like you said, they couldn't put it in Cleveland or...
Ever since Crocodile Hunter 2 came out, I think Australia's gone down.
Crocodile Dundee, too, you mean?
What did I say? Oh, yeah, Crocodile... Oh, poor Crocodile Hunter.
Yeah.
Crikey.
But no, you couldn't put it in Oklahoma City, or you'd have to be, like you said, a major city. But again, if the money was there, people don't really care. Definitely the players are not going for where they are. They're going for their prestige and the money.
Sometimes, to some degree, right. Yeah, but I think you could put a dent in these tournaments even enough to the point where they could get their act in gear. And I've got no problem with the percentage being 40%.
Well, all it would take, even less than what you're saying, all it would take is Federer, Djokovic, Nadal, Serena, Sharapova, those 5 saying we're not playing Wimbledon this year unless overall prize money is increased, every 25%.
Yeah.
That would be all it would take. And what would probably happen is they would test their bluff. They would call their bluff the first time, and then they would have way lower revenue that year. Well,
let me tell you, you want to talk about one of the greatest moves of all time, PR for any of these players? What if they said the top players that there's only 3 that have a chance to win the men's, but let's say they said all the big 3 men and a couple others. Maybe even the top 10, and then on the women, the top 10, and they all agreed we will not play, and we will vocally not play. As a matter of fact, we're going to go down to Dallas and play in the old Tennis Revolution podcast tournament. Just throwing out there, any agents listening.
It's going to be broadcast on the rival network of whatever the slam is on.
Then, but here's what they would have to say. We want the revenue of, the average last 5 years or whatever, 40% of that revenue to be divided amongst the qualifying and main draw, with an increase of make it like regressive.
Right.
Make it like the first round gets, a 40% bump. The next round is 35% bump.
Right.
So that way, when you get to the top, they're not going from $3 million to $20 million.
Right.
Maybe $3 million to $2 extra million, maybe whatever. But then the rest of that money is all the lower. First of all, they will be heroes beyond belief to everybody ranked outside the top 50.
Right.
Because that'd be incredible for them.
Yeah.
And then they would also look like magnanimous. Boom. There's my word for this week. Because they're taking money, quote unquote, out of their pockets and putting their, livelihood, so to speak, not really, but on the line, saying, hey, I'm going to boycott this tournament. It's really hurting their legacy. I mean, that's another chance to win a slam that they won't get. But
well, and do you think that these tournaments aren't paying, back to our first segment, aren't paying Tiger Woods appearance fees because they know their revenue for the tournament is going to be dramatically higher if he plays? I mean,
oh, sure.
I mean, everybody's paying top players in sports to play. I mean, they didn't give Odell Beckham that huge contract just because they're going to win more games. They know it's going to put more people in the stands.
Right.
I mean, that has something to do with it, obviously, but they know what people are paying to see.
So that's the idea that people really have to separate, is that the two things. Number one, the big thing, like I said, that Tipsarevic brought up was you're not getting paid for losing the first round. You're getting paid for being at the level that you could lose in the first round.
Yeah.
I couldn't lose in the first round. I know. Right. I literally could not lose in the first round. Doesn't mean I win in the first round. It means I won't even be there ever.
Yeah.
So there's a tiny 0.001% of people in the world that could lose in the first round of a Grand Slam. And
the only people I may disagree with that on are the wild cards. Outside of that,
yeah, but if you're a wild card, you
had some reason you got in.
You're given a free pass into that round, knowing those parameters. That
right.
You're going to get this much money, and so that's giving somebody a lottery ticket. It's not that they don't deserve it; they
right.
don't, as far as their level, but they do because that's what a wild card's for. So right. I don't begrudge that whole situation.
And you could easily solve that anyway by just saying, you limit to X number of wild cards in your career or whatever. Once you've had 2, you don't get any more.
Or something, whatever.
Yeah.
Or even not. It doesn't matter. To me, it doesn't matter. Because ultimately, if they're wrong on that wild card and that person doesn't make it to another, main draw of a tournament,
right.
then so be it. But the tournament says, hey, the wild card is worth this much.
Well, and that happens in any sport. I mean, you might have a 35-0 blowout in the NFL. They still get their check that week.
Yeah.
Whether they earned it or not.
Oh, they didn't. So anyway, that was one thing. And again, the other thing is it's not that whole thing of, millionaires arguing with billionaires like, people always talk about in the football. There is a pool of money that is being made regardless of how the breakdown is. I mean, the bottom line is the U.S. Open is making a ton of hundreds of millions of dollars, no matter what. So now the difference is, where does it go? Do we want it to go to the jackasses at the top that keep messing up this game? No, I want it to go to the people who are actually the reason we're there at the U.S. Open paying for ticket prices. And so
I'm looking up John Isner, and he became pro. Well, of course, this doesn't say, but in his entire career, he's made $18 million. Well, that's not 2007. So that's 12 years. That's not that much. I mean, it's $1.5 million a year, and he's been the number one American for the majority of that time.
Yeah,
that's $1.5 million a year, and he's been top 10 in the world for a lot of that time. I mean, that's not very much money when you think about any other sport,
right?
And the amount of money that the tournaments have brought in.
That's the key to me. That's always the key, and it solves the argument of rich people just wanting to get richer. No, they are part of a system that generates a certain amount of money. They're the key reason for the money being generated, and they should get a bulk of it.
Well, I think we hear every year, 700,000-800,000 people go to the U.S. Open. I mean, on average, every person there is spending at least $100, surely.
Oh, man, let me tell you.
I mean, so that's already in the hundreds of millions just based on that. That's not counting TV deals and things like that. So, I mean, the money's there to be handed out.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So,
but that's how they grow the game and do all these great programs for us, Coach.
Yeah, apparently. Oh, goodness. All right, so the most important thing we've got to talk about today is what, do you think?
Monte Carlo.
Yeah, baby.
The real clay court season starts now.
How dare you,
Without
sir.
Federer.
How dare you. Houston spray painted their clay for you. I would like to get a clarification on somebody who is in Houston standing on the clay and let me know if it's real live European type clay. Because to me that makes a difference.
Well, and I'd like to know if that person thinks Federer's the best on clay too.
Not nice, behave. All right, so we got Monte Carlo, the 1 seed Novak, the 2 seed Nadal. Ooh, fancy. And apparently Novak said, I want to play and beat Nadal at the French Open, which makes sense. I mean, nobody else in the world's any good at tennis except the big three, and he's the best on clay, theoretically, even though Djokovic is now. And so if you want to be the man, you got to beat the man. Woo! Yeah, how about that?
There we go. I like that reference.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
That was pretty, and I did all the sound effects were my own.
That's right. We've gone back into the 20th century.
I hope people know who that is. He just had a big special on something, Netflix or something.
Oh, really?
Or maybe it was ESPN.
We had a 30 for 30 a few months ago.
Maybe it was a 30 for 30.
Yeah. One of the greatest.
Some would say the greatest. Who are we talking about?
I was trying to think of his other lines. Styling and profiling.
Styling and profiling.
Yeah, and teams of all sports call him in to motivate weekly. He just goes and speaks to some random college or pro team pre-match motivational speech. The nature boy, Ric Flair.
Ric Flair, yeah.
Who's literally, I think, mid-60s now.
Oh, and he's just busted to pieces.
Yeah, and he was wrestling actively until maybe 3 or 4 years ago.
Busted to pieces. So, all right, so we've got Nadal is the 2, Djokovic is the 1, Monte Carlo, what a wonderful place, 5.5 mil, red clay, whatever.
Who knows what that is anymore?
Yep. And they started today, which is Sunday, so they got matches going. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and we've talked about his team playing also.
Unfortunately, yes,
because those are the top 3 clay quarters.
Well, he's the 4 seed because they don't, and Zverev is the 3 seed.
It was.
No, that was
last week.
That was last
week.
Round. He lost first round when he was the 1 seed. So he's got a little bit less pressure, I guess.
Right.
So he's going to play a wild card or a qualifier. Zverev will play. So he's got, because of course they don't think the seeds have already advantage for being better. They all give him a bye.
Right.
So every seed's got a bye, which is fantastic. So Zverev is waiting for the winner of a wild card and a qualifier. The qualifier, Juan Ignacio Londero from Argentina.
Wow. Chela's cousin.
Maybe. And wild card, Felix Auger-Aliassime.
Oh, God. He's still, because of that 42-day rule we talked about, he still has to get wild cards.
Yep. So hopefully he will get through that first round, and then he will play Zverev, because I think that will be fantastic to see. Wawrinka is through. He beat Luca Pouille. And that just gives you, again, somebody who was out for a while, and he's back, and he's not one of the big 3, but he's the big 4, which, again, we say is interchangeable with all the guys. Cilic, Delpo, Wawrinka.
Yeah.
Who else? Murray.
Right.
And I think Murray might be a 3.5.
Yeah.
And I don't count. Remember, nobody that's, if you haven't won a slam.
Right. Yeah, so he and Wawrinka are basically the closest.
Cilic, Wawrinka, Delpo.
That's about it.
And I guess Andy and a half of Andy.
Yeah.
So Wawrinka's already through to the second round, and he's going to play Zmer, whatever his name is, Damir Zmer.
And he is somebody that, just if he gets a favorable draw of the French, you just never know. Because he's obviously got the game, and he's obviously got the confidence on that surface.
Yeah, well, he's playing Cecchinato, so
that'll be a good test for him.
Yeah. So we've got those two going, which is nice.
But see, I don't want to see, like, this is what we've talked about before. Do you want to see Djokovic and Nadal play each other before the French, or would you rather that be the first time they play?
No, I don't care. Every time if they both get to the finals, I'm right again.
Well, yeah. But I just mean, I think it makes the French more exciting if they haven't played leading up to it. Because if Nadal beats him 3 times leading up to it and they play in the French, it's like, oh, big deal.
Right.
We already know what's going to happen.
I was just about to say, but what if they go back and forth from now till then?
Yeah, that makes a little difference.
But they're only going to play 2 of these tournaments, so what does it matter?
Yeah, they'll play Madrid in this probably.
Right.
Well, Nadal will play all of them because that's where he gets all his points every year.
Ouch. Talking smack. All right, so here's another player who, injury, out of nowhere, old as dirt, and he's already going to be better than all the next gens and the next gens. Protected ranking.
Oh.
He's back. Joe Wilfred Tsonga.
Yeah, I saw he won some matches in the last tournament.
He sure did.
Almost beat Pair.
Yeah. Yeah, 3 sets.
Is your favorite player playing?
Who's that?
Tip service. Probably didn't qualify.
No. 325.
I'm not even sure he's actually actively on the tour still.
He is.
Okay.
He's been out for 5 years. He said he's had 7 surgeries in 5. Again, referring to the tennis podcast, because we're the tennis podcast of record.
Did he specify if any of those were paid for by the tour?
Oh, I don't know.
That I don't know.
No. I would imagine not. So anyway, he's had 7 surgeries over 5 years, and he's finally back physically where he feels all right. He's had a couple fits and starts over the last 5 years, but he's kind of going.
Yeah, I've seen his name randomly in draws the last few years.
So we've got another couple key. So Joe Willie playing Taylor Fritz, American.
Okay.
So he'll get through. Tsonga will be playing the winner of Kyle Edmund and Diego Schwartzman, which, to be honest, could go either way.
Right. You would think Schwartzman, but who knows?
Yeah, and then I'm telling you, man, Joe Willie's playing some ball right now.
Yeah.
So I'd love to see him get through, and in the 3rd round, he'd play Joker. So that'd be a fun test for Joker, who beat Tsonga for his very first Australian Open.
There you go.
What do we have? Some other notable. So Tsitsipas, he beat Bai in the first round, so he's into the second round.
Does that guy ever win?
In the back draw sometimes. The Bai comes forward. Dominic Thiem, again, he'll be playing a qualifier or Martin Klizan. So I
don't really know what to think about Tsitsipas on clay. His game seems like it would be fine for clay, but I haven't seen him enough on clay to really know.
David Goffin is in that section with Thiem, and along with Khachanov.
So it's really loaded with everybody but Federer.
Yeah. I'm glad he's back on clay. Glad he's playing the clay court season. Of course, your always ever wild card, Fanini, 13 seed. He's playing qualifier Rublev. So
not an easy first round.
Not at all. And he'll play either Gilles Simon or qualifier. I like a French Gilles Simon to get through to there. And that could be a tough also test if Fanini makes it the second round. Gilles Simon could go through. So you got Nishikori and Koric a couple lines apart, so they could be 3rd round opponents. And Fernando Verdasco is trying to win to play into Nishikori. But he's got Herbert.
Yeah.
Pierre Hughes Herbert.
Well, he's not a clay quarter.
No, he's a Frenchie. He should be a clay quarter.
Right.
What else do we have here? So my top matchup, really my 2 top matchups early, is I want to see Joe Wilfred get through, which will be 2 matches, but get through to play Djokovic. If he does that, I'm like, wow, okay, this is the weakest.
Well, and that may give us an indication of where both those guys are after that.
Yeah, that's true too. So that's the first one, and that's up at the top couple lines. He's up there in the top half of the top half, and then
Felix and Zverev,
and then the other one is Felix and Zverev. That'd be a second round matchup. And again, That's next gen and Felix against next gen.
Which we love.
3 in the world next gen Zverev.
Or can we start calling that Never Gen?
Never Gen. Yes. Yes.
I like that.
That's the greatest thing you've ever given to this podcast.
The Never
Gen. So Zverev, part of the Never
See,
Gen.
if I had Twitter, I could hashtag that. It'd be perfect.
I'm hashtagging that right now. Well, I'll hashtag it during that match. I'll call it hashtag next gen versus Never Gen. So you got that's my second exciting matchup is FAA against Zverev, and then and Nadal just and at the bottom with Djokovic at the top. Of course, that's just what I want to see.
Right? Doesn't it all have any stepping stones before he gets deep?
Well, he beat Bai, of course. His second round is going to be Bautista Agut and the John Millman winner.
How is Bautista Agut unseated? He must have dropped.
So Bautista Agut and Millman in the first round. So that winner will play Nadal. And then he would play Dimitrov, but he's going to lose in the second round. He'll probably lose in the second round to Shapovalov.
Right.
Who's got
okay, so he's actually got a pretty tough draw there for his standards.
Shapo, yeah. But Agut, and then, he's going to make him work.
Yeah.
If Bautista Agut gets through, he'll make Nadal work, you would hope.
Right. So that's actually too tough for the normal draws for the top 3 seeds.
Yeah. Well, any draw is tough for Zverev.
And yet he still somehow stays in the top 4 year round.
And look, we got Borna Coric, who's supposed to be, whatever. And then, like you said, Thiem, who really has, he's got Goffin is his third round, and then Khachanov would be after that.
A new stat I want for ranking? I want a stat that's points per tournament. And I guarantee you Zverev will be ranked 80th if the stats were points per tournament. And same with Thiem. Because, again,
they just play him.
Federer will be number 1 for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
Because he gets, 1,000 points or more every tournament. But to me, that's the statistics now, the rankings are so wonky because the players are playing such different amount of tournaments. It's kind of, I'd rather have a point, sort of like ERA. It'd be like, well, yeah, if I pitched all 162 games, I'm going to have 60 wins.
Right.
It doesn't mean that I'm the best pitcher. Right. That's why they have ERA. I think that's what we need. We need like points per tournament ranking. That would be a lot more meaningful.
Yeah. I like it. So we've got Istanbul and Stuttgart next week, and really the only tournament is Jingzhou. But that's only a 125K, so the women are chilling.
Yeah.
They just wrapped up in Bogota, in case you're wondering.
With my girl.
I'm going to tell you something, buddy. Let me tell you something. Sometimes we record at the wrong time, and we don't get to talk about stuff that matters. And in this case, we missed out on our girl. Let me see the draw here. Do we need to go back? No, we don't.
No.
So we got, let's see. Well, at least give me the semifinals. Where are the finals? It's not giving me anything. It's ridiculous. WTA website's terrible, if you ask me. Both of them actually are, really, if you ask me. So it doesn't even. All right, forget it.
They're not. Neither of them are that user friendly.
No, they're not. Anywho, so much for that idea.
Like they're pretty much the only thing I ever use those for are searching players. That's it.
Yeah,
and really, I don't even need that. I can just Google them and get the same information.
Well, apparently they all need to call whoever did the Masters. That was dope. So anyway, so in Bogota, Anisimova won, which is exciting, and I think it's her first, right?
That's got to be.
And then
at that level, anyway.
Yeah, and then in Lugano, which I don't even know where that's at.
Wasn't the Olympics there one year?
Hergog and defeated a Schweitek, who I don't even know who that is.
That sounds like a technical college.
Nice, Schweitek.
Yeah, I'm sorry I missed that.
I'm not. So
yeah, we have Masters this week. Our version of Masters.
Yeah, that's exciting. The real Masters. Who cares about golf? Golf is stupid.
Are you ready for Corey's Corner?
Oh my God! I didn't even know you had
Before
one.
you cut me off, I was saving it this time.
All right, so let's wrap up Rolex real quick, or is this part of Rolex?
No, go ahead.
Let's go ahead and wrap up Rolex. So those were my looks at the draw. Do you have the draw up?
No, but
Oh my God, you're a loser. You're such a loser.
I don't.
You were so ready for your.
I am.
You've been tapping your
for
leg
once. I'm ready
for the corner. I don't know how long now. It's not even close.
But no, what
did you basically agree with everything I said?
Oh yeah, I mean except for what you said about wanting to see Djokovic and Nadal. I don't want to see that because I'd rather save it for the French Open, just because I just think it ruins it a little bit. It's like, well, I've already seen these guys play. And yeah, even if one guy wins 3 times in a row, it doesn't mean for sure he's going to win the French, but to me it makes a little less drama. It's funny, the headline I'm seeing is Djokovic and Nadal face difficult Monte Carlo draws.
Hey, we just talked about that.
So obviously we weren't the only ones that thought that.
So anyway, those are sort of the, I hold no hope for the next great Clay Hope Dominic team. Come on. Hatchinoff, Tsitsipas, the next gen, I'd like to see what they're able to do on clay.
Oh, and of course on the AT website, I click it and it doesn't come up.
And then FAA, well, that's all right. We got it.
That's perfect.
They only need to hear me.
Yeah.
And so, and hopefully Grigor won't just fall apart again. He made it through the first round, I see.
No, what I always want to see is, like we've talked about, those next gen and never gen matchups, and those are the things I look for, because those are the ones that to me tells, kind of validates what we're saying.
Yeah.
Now I've got it here.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I mean,
exciting radio. Riveting.
Well, no, the ATV, you must not be looking on the ATV website. The ATV website will not let me pull up the draw. I click draw and nothing happens.
No, I just went to Monte Carlo. Anyway, all right. Well,
yeah, it's typical. That's what we just talked about.
Again, the most important thing, of course, is Corey's Corner. So
yes. So you talked about today.
Give it to me.
14 years later, Tiger Woods riveted the world by winning the Masters. Is there any player that could make a comeback at the U.S. Open and generate that same kind of attention? Any player, past, present, retired, current, that would generate that kind of buzz?
All right, so
male or female, obviously.
All right, I don't understand exactly what you're saying.
I'm saying, is there any player that is going to get the ratings and the attention that Tiger Woods got today?
So a tennis
if
player.
That happened in the U.S. Open tennis tournament.
So would I ever say this about a tennis player?
Tiger Woods, y'all.
I love the scream at the end.
Well, so yeah.
And I don't know that there is. To me, the closest in the past that we had to this was Jimmy Connors, which was now almost 30 years ago. But he was the closest of a comeback player.
No chance he was going to win that U.S. Open. Really? I mean, there was no chance he was going to win that U.S. Open.
Well, and that's the problem with tennis, because as a player, you're getting progressively worse every round if you're past your prime. Right. So, I mean, that's the problem, is there really is no possible way of this happening in tennis. But, I'm just saying, if somebody was in the semis, if somebody made the quarters or even the final, what would get people to tune in? Put
it this way, all right? Jimmy Connors made it to the semifinals.
And got crushed.
And got
bad.
routined by Jim Courier, 3-3-2.
And did he beat anybody in the top 10 leading up to that?
I don't know.
Krickstein was close, maybe.
And I mean, Paul Harhus is a good player. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, it wasn't good.
But so if Roddick comes out of retirement, and of course the difference is Tiger Woods hasn't been retired; he's been on the tour. But if Roddick comes back at the U.S. Open and somehow makes a semi, is there going to be huge buzz on that semifinal afternoon? People watching him.
Man, if you're at my house, yes. if you're watching,
obviously nobody in tennis has a star power of Tiger Woods, but I'm just saying, who would be the most comparable to that?
If I'm taking notes for the podcast and Roddick's coming back, yes, me. But who would that be? Man,
I only thought of one player.
Don't tell me.
I'm not, and it wouldn't. And the reason I thought of this player is they're on the tour now, but it's been a long time since they've won.
Hoo-wee. Vince Spadia?
Not since they won a match.
He ain't afraid of you. He definitely rapped at the Challenger Iran that he was in. And that was his big line. Vince Spadea
which I thought was great.
Ain't afraid of you.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
See, that rivals Tiger Woods, y'all.
Yep. Who could it be? Give me a hint.
Well, female.
I was thinking female, and the first thought I thought was Azarenka.
Okay. That may generate worldwide buzz. I'm saying American female.
American female.
And again, hasn't won a major in a long time.
Venus?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the only one that I think people could get excited about. They didn't get excited about it because she played Serena in the Australian Open. And one, it's the Australian, which is 2:30 in the morning. And number two, it was against Serena. So it's she would be the only one I would think.
I will say the only difference is she's closer than Tiger Woods was for a while.
I know, that's the problem. There's no player that's just been gone.
That's why if Azarenka was Venus, if they switch in terms of then it would be amazing.
Yeah.
But she's been right there, and if she would have played somebody else besides her sister and her niece.
But that's the problem in tennis. There's nobody that's just sort of lingering in the 1 to 200s that used to be a legend, because most of them just retire.
Well, it's way more of a physical sport, of course, than golf. No offense to golf. And I'm sure many, many golfers could beat me up. I get it. But
because obviously anybody could come to retirement and tomorrow make our story, but that's not realistic. You're trying to think about somebody that's semi-realistic. Because obviously if Hingis made a run, that would be amazing. But you're talking about someone who's actually actively on the tour.
Steffi Graf. Yeah. She's kind of American. She lives in Vegas now.
Right. So. I mean, yeah, exactly. We could have said Agassi or Sampras, but it's got to be somebody who's like on the tour at least to some degree.
And I like where your head's at with. No, there we go. Sorry, technical difficulty.
Lost the audience.
Well, I like where your head's at because you tried to trick me and make it look like it was going to be a guy.
That's right.
But one of the first places I went to was Azarenka. Told you we're not sexist.
I can't think of any man that would draw that kind of buzz.
Well, I just don't think Roddick would be a threat to that level.
Yeah, and it's not a fair comparison because he's been off the tour for 6 or 8 years.
That too.
But yeah, there's no guy. I mean, I don't even know who. I mean, Hewitt would have to be. I mean, he's been off the tour even.
Sort of.
But there's not really anybody in that age range or that skill level that would even have a chance.
Right. Yeah. No, I like it. That's finally you bring something. It's about time.
But it's sad because, I do feel like Connors was a huge event. And yeah, I mean, but you don't really you saying he has no chance. Of course, is true. But the vast majority of people watching that didn't think that at the time, just because they were living in the past. And I think people will be the same way.
They knew he didn't have a chance, but they didn't know how far away that chance was. How about that? How about that?
And that would be the same Roddick. If he came back and won a match, they'd be like, wow, he won a match. And then if he won somehow a second round, it'd be like, wow, can he actually win another round? Nobody would say he's going to win the tournament.
Right.
And I'm sure nobody was saying that about Connors in that semi.
What a Corey's Corner. Man, sometimes you surprise me.
Got the Never Gin in the corner today.
Oh, yeah, the Never Gin is the absolute highlight. That's that's one for the ages.
I'm proud of that. I like that. I'm done with the next. Don't ever let us say next gen again.
I'll forget. But
I know.
I'll try. But, yeah, so that's... now, here's the other thing about that. I don't think we need it. And the reason we don't need... So, first of all...
Well, we don't need it because all our greats are currently playing.
Tennis didn't need it even back then, though. I mean, it was in a pretty good place back then. So having that was such a bonus. Nobody looked at that oh God, this is going to save tennis. Well, that's what they're looking at,
right?
I think, and they should be anyway. Looking at in regards to Tiger Woods having, I don't know if it's a comeback.
Well, Jack Nicklaus posted something about, it's so great for golf. I'm like, well, is it really great for golf that
yes.
a 43-year-old wins?
Yes.
It is?
Yep. It's so different.
I think it is, but here's why I said they did such a good job bouncing around the coverage. I think they realized, unlike tennis, that they're not going to live on Tiger. You're going to capitalize on the fact that 50 million people are watching and show them all these other amazing players.
Yeah.
Whereas tennis, they're going to show Serena the whole time, and then when it switches to someone else, they're like, "Who's this? Serena match is over. I'm going to tune out."
Yes. Well, that's what I was going to say. So first of all, we're not as in dire a place as golf, and so with that, I think if Federer retired but Nadal didn't, I see Nadal retiring first.
I do too.
But so if one of them retires first, we still got two. Even if two of them retire, we still got Joker for longer.
Right.
Probably a fair amount longer. He missed some time, and he wants to,
right.
He wants to get that record. There's no doubt, and every other record. But here's the other thing that we have, I think, and maybe I'm sexist. I don't know. Somebody will tell me, I'm sure of it. And that is that our women, that sounds sexist right there. Our women can carry tennis, I think.
Yeah. That is the advantage of we have being so interlocked that when one side is, awful, in a slump, the other one
awful.
Can pick it up.
Awful.
It will be awful when Federer and Nadal are gone.
So, yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. And I think it's probably within 7 years we're going to have to find out.
Right.
Either we can kind of piece together some players here that can do something, or the women are going to have to carry the burden for a while, which women have been doing for hundreds and hundreds of years.
And congrats to Keys, by the way. I said she would never beat Wozniacki, and she did, so go ahead and mark me wrong on that.
Oh, I already did. I marked you when you said it, wrong when you said it.
I was impressed.
And again, I mean, that right there just shows, the depth of women's tennis. And I'm telling you, it is a fine line. I get it. It's a fine line. I hate women, all right? But I still praise them. I'm kidding, of course. But people look at it, I get tweets or emails or something about, why we can say that, like why we say that about the men versus the women when, when the big three are gone, the men will look like the women do now, right?
Right.
But they won't. And my argument has always been Serena Williams. She has always been, or she always is the sort of standard which you can compare. The men don't have a standard.
Right.
Because no one can beat the top three. So when somebody beats Serena and then they also do well when she's gone, it's like, all right, well, at least we had Serena. She did that too. She beat, whoever it was beat Serena or was competing with Serena, and now she's competing on her without Serena. So it carries over, or however you want to say it. So anyway.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's everything. What do you think?
I think that's it.
Man. It's good to be back. It's good to be back.
We haven't been gone, but it seems like we have.
Well, just, the tennis season is going right now, and so it's like
a lot of activities between recordings.
So it's, So anywho. All right. Everybody, please, by all means, follow us on Twitter. All right? There's one reason and one reason only to follow us on Twitter, and that's I say dumb stuff. Actually, I don't. I say fantastic stuff, and people just think it's dumb. They're wrong.
Yes.
So Tennis Rev Pod on Twitter, at Tennis Rev Pod. Now, you will get tweets on that. So if you don't mind being bothered a little bit, you'll get tweets.
Well, and the tweets are our show, which you must already like because you're following us on Twitter.
And really, it's mainly so you'll get it and then retweet it. For the love of all things holy, why would you listen to this thing and not do that? Oh, my God. Why would you follow us on Twitter and not retweet? It's a button, people. One button,
right.
I think. I'm not 100% clear. If you don't want to be bothered, we have something for you, too. It's called Instagram. And you may be thinking, wait, what? Wait, what? Yeah, we refused to send a picture on Instagram or a story, whatever that is. I can't even read, so how would I send you a story? But Instagram is at Tennis Revolution Pod. Spelled all the way out. How do you like that? Tennis Revolution Pod on Instagram. Follow us for the fun of it, because you'll get nothing. You will get nothing from us on Instagram. Maybe a direct message, actually.
Don't scare them off.
No, yeah, you're right. That happened. All right, so that's the ways you follow us. You can do email on the website. Come on, it's 2019. Nobody cares about stuff like that. That's boring. But I will tell you this. What makes this thing so fun for you to listen to, besides us, is if lots of other people are listening to it too. Come on, you don't want to be all alone.
Y'all can make fun of us together.
How pitiful is that if you're sitting here listening all alone? Get your friends out here. Get people involved. Spread the word. And particularly in like heavy tennis type states. Like, I don't know.
Texas, California.
I was thinking Maine, maybe.
Alaska.
Yeah. They need more tennis, honestly. So that's it. So anything else?
That's it.
Whew, thank goodness. All right. Well, until next time, thanks for joining the revolution.
Bye, guys.
Clay courts.